Dancing.
You are dancing.
Dancing.
Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 18.
Yay.
I'm Kurt, and we got a bunch of people here with me. Say hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all.
All right.
I'm Gidget. Hi.
Like I said, this is...
Nobody else
this
is gonna...
Yeah, just introduce your fucking selves. Everybody? Oh, no, nobody wants to
End
go.
of line.
That's
Nice.
Handor. And
Here we are. Handor is below me.
And
I'm Hondor.
that's nice.
Yeah, you might not recognize him because he's been dead for about 6 years.
He's also wearing a very dainty hoodie. It's very cute.
Dainty. I love it. It's awesome.
I like your hoodie.
That's a great color.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
are the sleeves, is it ombre? Like, are the sleeves darker than the... That's awesome.
He's a bad hombre. With his sleeves.
That is an awesome hoodie. I can't believe I
Thank
didn't
you.
notice that until right now.
How are you feeling, Night Son? You haven't said it.
It's 10 a.m. and I would rather be sleeping.
That's
have-
because you were here at our house really late.
I have some themed coffee.
I have Stitch's butt on my cup.
Oh, yeah. Get in it, Stitch.
Nice. Very nice.
Stitches.
Ah! Ow.
My,
Well, like I said, this is the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 18. If you're new here, you can find all our shit by searching Pixel Scandal. If that doesn't work, you can go to twitch.tv/Pixel Scandal, or you can find us on YouTube by searching Pixel Scandal. If you want updates about the show, you can find us on Twitter @Pixel Scandal, or you can email the show if you'd like to contact us. We might even read your email on the air if it's got a question or something like that. Send those to pixelscandal@gmail.com.
you can send us angry emails too and
Yeah.
tell us why we're all mad at End of Line, because that works too.
Send your hate mail to
I would prefer
pixelscandal.com.
those. Those would be way more
Yeah,
fun.
Pixel Scandal, yeah. If
Send
you'd like
your-
just some...
Send your hate mail to endofline at... I'm sure that's an email.
We're going to have to make end of line at pixelscandal.com. All right, well, you can also find us pixelscandal.com if you just want some poorly organized information about the show.
Chaos. Poorly organized chaos.
So, end of line, do we have any announcements or anything coming up?
We do. We have our next actual play on October 13th. Gidget will be running a one-shot for us. We're still undecided on what she will be running. It will either be a spooky Halloween game or it will be
Adorable.
a Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it's not Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it's
Who Framed Jessica
Who
Rabbit?
Framed Jessica Rabbit, his
Oh,
wife.
knows.
Yes.
So
it's
we're not
either
sure.
Spoopy or Jessica Rabbit. We'll decide soon.
But that'll be on the 13th of October. And then our next Dungeon World game will be on November 10th. And we had our last Dungeon World game yesterday, actually. So check that out. That should be posted online as well. It was a very good game.
It was pretty fucking great, y'all. I was pretty happy about
it was the best game.
Yeah,
There were hats. There weren't as many hats as normal, but there were hats. There were snake hats.
There were hats.
I had a damn good time running that game.
I also. But Kurt has a correction to our last episode that he feels like he needs to state out loud, which is funny. But go ahead, Kurt.
Oh yeah. So I said something last episode, which was incorrect.
Your face is very big right now.
I claim that the creator of 10 Candles, Stephen Dewey, also created Dread,
Rest in
which is
peace.
incorrect. Dread was written by Epidai Ravachol, and I hope that Leaf Mustard will forgive me for my misstep.
He was so offended by this, in fact, that he just... We canceled the whole show last week. He basically sat in the room crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very sad.
I had to drive to LA and have an amazing game convention to get over it.
This just gave me an idea for obviously stolen from SNL, but we should do a whole segment on some topic, get everything wrong, and at the end of the show, run all the errors and the corrections.
Just
Our
purposefully.
Fox News special.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. So, what is everyone excited about? We all know what Kurt's excited about. Go ahead, just do it.
Motherfucking Big Bad Con is coming up in October. I'm excited about that shit.
he turns into Samuel Jackson when he's excited for cons.
Apparently.
These motherfucking games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm excited for PAX East tickets to go on sale. That's what I'm excited for. But we got time on that.
Hold on to your butts.
Anybody have anything else they're excited about?
Nope. Life is a misery. Horrible. It's basically just one sad moment until you die.
Life is a misery.
It's I recently heard that life is just a big long struggle, series of struggles preventing you from taking a nap.
You know, I might have to agree with that. I might have to agree with that. I feel like we need to pause the show, have a quick group therapy session where we talk about all our feelings.
All right, everybody gather around.
Get this on a higher note here, guys.
Yay! I'm excited. Things are amazing.
Good job.
It's time to talk about our feelings.
All right, so what have we played recently? We just kind of mentioned it, but we played Dungeon World yesterday.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Spoilers, I'm going to say that now. If you didn't watch yesterday and you want to, go watch that and then come back and finish this.
Yes.
But yeah, yesterday we had our guest star Rob on here, and he was really super fun to play with. He made an amazingly deep character that had a rich background that I think really added to the story that we already have kind of going in our game. And I really liked all of the character development stuff we got through yesterday. It really, I think, added to the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a great job.
It was a damn fine time. I had a really good time running it, and I got to just kind of sit back and watch you guys RP, which is my favorite part of GMing. So.
And Forrest found out that he has feelings.
Forrest had a feeling, everybody. He had the one feeling.
Yeah.
And it was a pants feeling.
It was a pants feeling.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah. He had a feeling.
He had a feeling.
In his pants.
If you want to know what that feeling was, go watch the show.
Go find out what Forrest's pants
and
feeling.
And children, don't Google it.
Don't Google pants feelings? I'm Googling it right now.
To the internet.
Pants.
Oh, wait,
Actually, I am honestly curious what will come up.
Urban Dictionary, pants feelings. Clearly, an unhealthy relationship dynamic had taken hold.
You gotta stop with the sexy mic talk, man.
But it didn't affect my pants feelings, and I struck around. Yeah.
You're gonna freak people out, and they're gonna just.
You know what you also get is a lot of pants.
A lot of pants. Yeah, because the way they feel on your body.
Yeah.
It's important.
Feelings. Yes.
Yeah.
Comfortable pants.
Yeah, it comes with two Urban Dictionary entries: pants feelings, and the next one is pants.
Yeah,
it's an Urban Dictionary entry for pants.
Do you think that's someone didn't understand that pants are underwear in England, and so they had to make an Urban Dictionary for it?
Maybe.
Noun,
I don't know.
Noun American also use some British dialects. Trousers, etc.
Oh, so it's for the Brits that didn't know that pants means trousers.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're like, why are Americans running around in their underwear so often?
Yeah.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything else to say about the Dungeon World game? No? Okay.
Go watch it right now.
Watch it.
Watch it in 1 hour when we are done with this. You're going to love it.
I was going to say, I'm excited because my computer was blowing up and slowly catching on fire. And I have a new computer, and I'm able to play things.
Yay!
I've been playing For the King, which is, I don't even know how to describe that.
Yeah, so basically you didn't have a computer. It was broken. You got a new one, all amazing, and you came back to basically 16-bit games.
Yes. All of this, seriously, all the, real simple, I don't know, 2.8 gigabyte games that I bought and haven't been able to play. I'm playing all of them. Amarillo.
Oh, you're playing Amarillo?
Oh, we have that
Yeah.
one.
I have Amarillo.
Yeah, I have Amarillo.
Okay. Yeah. So
I fucking love
Maybe
Amarillo.
we should stream it.
You could play a
we can
bunny
stream
rabbit.
that. Yeah. And For the King, which is surprisingly much more in depth than I expected. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. Been playing a lot of little stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. As always, I'm sure all of us have been playing WoW since the last podcast.
I've played less WoW than usual because we did con and then I had to prep for the Dungeon World game. So I have not played a ton of WoW this last week.
I have.
Yeah, I'm basically on the downward slope out of WoW at this point.
I'm not done yet. I just been busy.
I log in to do Corey and I do the island
The scenarios
yeah,
or expeditions or whatever they're called.
Yeah, scenarios or scenarios if you're an asshole. Yeah.
I think I've only ever done the 5 that we did, Kurt. Like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're like, woo, achievement.
I guess it's the best way to farm
artifact power.
Artifact power.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
I mean, if you do the right ones, you get the weekly thing for a big chunk. So.
Yeah. Rando said it, so it must be true.
I'm just gonna take the slow bus to LFR, and eventually they'll put out the catch-up mechanics, and I'll catch up with everybody.
Right? Yeah.
I spent the last time I played WoW doing pet battles.
Oh, I did a bunch of pet battles too. I'm really digging those. It's funny. I haven't done pet battles since they came out with them. When Cataclysm was pet battles?
Yeah.
Mop. And so like I was really into pet battles in Mop, and then I didn't touch them, and then now because of the world quests, there's pet battle quests. I'm just running around doing all the world pet battle quests to get my necessary stuff.
I almost leveled my rogue Hondor through Mop. Completely just doing pet battles. I think he was I think he was a level shy.
Wow.
Okay.
110.
Yeah, I actually did level a character through pet battles, just because I was leveling other characters, like leveling pets, and I was like, well, if I'm going to level pets, I might as well do it on a character who needs the actual XP.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's legitimately fun. Like I am. Honestly, when this expansion came out, everyone was so pumped about, let's do this, get leveled, get the gear, let's start doing mythics and stuff. And I'm like, can I just do pet battles and collect pets and level that way? And everyone's like, no. So
I went and got a bee pet, and it was a crap pet, but then I got a drop for a thing where you can make a whatever pet into a rare. So I turned it into a rare.
The stones, the pet
battle
stones.
A rare bee.
Yeah, they're handing out those flawless stones like candy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
like, I'm actually at the point where I'm like, I have no idea what to spend this on because I don't know. Like, I already have my core stable.
Clearly, it's so you can go get honeybees and make them a full team of honeybees.
Yeah, but if I was going to make a full team of anything, it would be baby Maragars. Such Bone Storm.
Yeah.
And those are already blue.
Cool. What has anybody been playing anything else besides WoW recently?
I started playing Warframe again. I don't know why, but that game will literally like Friday. That game will always draw me back. I love that game. Yeah. I don't think there's really anything too new about it. A couple more frames, but I still love it. It's Space Ninjas.
In space.
You guys got me. I think you, Night Sun, got me. You and Rando, I think, got me playing that for 2-3 days. I just couldn't. I don't know. Something about it.
Just wasn't your jam.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it was too fast paced for me or something.
Maybe. Yeah, it is a lot of just sprinting, running off walls, doing parkour, and shooting things.
Parkour.
Yeah. Parkour. You have to shout parkour when you do parkour.
Shout it.
Parkour. Yeah, your voice will become hoarse very quickly.
Parkour.
Yeah, you just consistently parkour.
You just jump over
a rock. Having a stroke?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't tell.
You just do like one long parkour, like a Toblerone,
like a Ricola commercial.
Ricola, yeah. Blow it into a big horn off of a Swedish mountain.
Well, Kurt and I went to a gaming convention last weekend, and we played in a lot of stuff. But we are actually going to save our recap of that for next week's show.
Yes.
So that we don't take up the entire show talking about.
I learned a lot about gaming.
Yes. So we're gonna skip over that and talk about it next week. But Night Sun, Kurt and I actually got together and played some board games last night. which honestly was super fun. We haven't done a board game night in like forever, and so we played. What did we play? We played.
So for one,
Pandemic.
Resistance is absolutely freaking amazing.
Yeah, Resistance is really great.
Resistance was super good. That was.
I don't think I've ever played a game with a group of people, finished the game, and everyone's like, "No, we're playing that again right now."
Yeah,
we gotta try that again.
We played it over and over again for like an hour, and finally went, "Okay, let's move on to something else."
We were not prepared. If you follow me on Twitter, you got to see the picture. Our Resistance lost 3 for 3. Like the first round. 3 rounds, all the missions failed. Like we could not figure out how to play that game. Apparently,
we were way too trusting. Good. We were way too trusting that first game. We're like, of course, everyone's not a spy.
Knight's psychological game is on point, though.
Oh yeah,
I have to say, because
he can logic the shit out of anything, and then you're like, what?
Yeah. He's like, no, it's just math, and he's like telling you why he's not a spy, and I absolutely know he's a spy, and I'm trying to explain it to everyone because I'm Resistance and he's a spy, and I know that he's a spy, and I'm trying to tell everyone, and he's like, no. Math says Kurt's a spy.
Yeah, and then we're all like, well, obviously, because
math doesn't lie.
End of life. Night Sun said so. So that's the way it is.
Oh my god.
But we also played. What?
I was just gonna tell you the games because I was following you guys on Instagram, and I'm
I know Kurt kept
you guys played Resistance. You guys played Pandemic Legacy, right?
We did, which that was Legacy. Really fun.
That came down to the fucking wire. Like we were one outbreak away from dying. We had one more epidemic card that was gonna come up. Like shit was about to go wrong fast, and we one action.
We played like 3/4 of the game, going, we're doing really good.
Yeah, and then shit
really
just fell apart.
Everything's fine, and then just fuck.
That's all. Every Pandemic game that I've played, we're all like soup. So we'll play one in a night, and I don't know why. We're just idiots. We'll throw it on the board, and we're like. Oh, we got a good character group. We can all do this.
The balance is good. The skills we have are good.
Everything looks great, right? You're to the point where you got like two places that have a little bit of outbreak left. You're like, all we need to do is just get over there, and then we can worry about that one later because there's hardly anything there, so we know it won't spread.
Right.
But you pull like the 3 cards in a row that just cause it to explode all over.
Yeah.
The Western Hemisphere. Like, fine. For the whole fucking game, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna go focus on red. We're gonna be in Tokyo or whatever, and then boom, like 3 outbreaks all at once in Americas.
Well, and we were playing Pandemic Legacy, so like we have different objectives we have to get rather than just the like cure all the diseases and eradicate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're like, we'll just worry about the objectives, and it just kind of got away from us real fast.
Now, Matt, I don't know if you've seen the Pandemic Legacy version, but basically it's the Legacy series. It's like there's a Risk Legacy, Pandemic Legacy, Candyland Legacy. I'm sure is due to come out later this year.
I think that's what we picked up. I think Charterstone.
What about Mousetrap Legacy? That's all I'm waiting for.
Oh man!
Try to get more and more elaborate as the game goes on.
I want that game so much. The idea being is it's a game that you only play X number of times. So in the case of Pandemic Legacy, you can only play it 24 times. Period. 12 if you win.
Okay. Yep.
And the board is constantly changing. They add rules. Like we just finished year 3, and there are 2 completely like mechanics that are in Pandemic Legacy that are not in the base game that completely change up how you play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only in year 3 we got, or month 3, so we have 9 more.
Oh, okay. So that's a lot like we picked up a. You know what? I'm gonna have to get a hold of you. Kurt, sometime and post the gaming table that I made for tabletop gaming.
Yeah.
So that we can share that on the Pixel Scandal, because it's actually a sweet table. Well, anyways, we picked up a escape room game, so it's only a one-time playthrough, right? I mean, you can only.
Is that the one with the app where you have to use an app with it?
No, this one doesn't have an app.
Oh, okay.
But everything once you use the stuff, it's used up. You have to write on it and all that stuff. So, it was a lot of fun. There was, I think it takes the first stages, like stage 1, 2, and 3, they're like intro. They'll take 20 to 30 minutes to do, and the last one, like it says, like make sure you've allotted yourself like 3 hours to be able to do this.
Geez. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was sad when once you finish it, you can't revisit it.
Well, here's the thing, and I found this something I've realized over the past maybe year. When I was younger, and I'm sure everyone is the same way. It's I'm going to spend how much for a game I can only play this much, and that's the same for even video games. Like, oh, I'm going to spend $30 for a 5-hour game. Well, that's a waste. I could buy a Final Fantasy game and it's 1,000,000 hours or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But now that money is not such an issue, it's a different story. And then on top of that, we go over to Mr. Kurt's house, and they have 2 walls of board games now.
Yeah, we do have a lot of board games.
We have been doing a board gaming group for, I don't know, 1,000,000 years now. And you look at it, and it's like, we played that game once, we played that game once, we played that game twice. Mm-hmm. That game was super fun. We played it 3 times.
Yeah.
How many of your games do you actually play more than a handful of times? So buying things for a pure experience is not such a foreign concept anymore.
Right.
Well, and I think, first of all, I need to correct you. It's not Mr. Kurt's house. It's Miss Gidget's house. But also,
in fairness, I was about to call the house what I normally call it, and then I realized that would be a very poor choice.
I know, but always default to my house.
Yeah, but I can't see you, so my eyes went to him, and I
I know, because for some reason you and I can't see each other on the thing right now. But we also go in phases where, like, there's a certain kind of game that we're playing a lot of. Like, we were really into deck building games and cooperative games,
we
and
played
then
Sentinels of the Multiverse like
a bajillion times. Yeah. And then we go through.
That's got a long setup, doesn't it?
No, that's super
really.
quick. It's a card game.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of table space requirement.
Yeah.
But.
Okay, we have that too. A lot of these games we have those as well.
But it's like we'll get really into this certain kind of game, but then we'll overplay it, and then we're like, we really got to cleanse the palate of that kind of game. So let's move over and play like a traditional, like European style Ticket to Ride or whatever, and we'll move over to like Power Grid. We played that last night, and so like it's kind of, we go through like certain flavors, right? Like where we want to play a bunch of games that are like this, and then we get sick of it, so we play a bunch of games that aren't like that, and then so we go through kind of temperaments of it as well.
I'd say the game that we... Oh, sorry. Didn't realize.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say this. The game that our group tends to go back to most often, I think we play it at least once every time we get together. So I'd say we've played it 30 times at least. Is Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yes. Actually, End of Line has that game, and I super love it. And every time it brings it over, I have such a great time.
It's I actually like the Betrayal at Baldur's Gate better, for one. I think there's a little more meat to it.
That one's super solid.
I'm gonna put that in chat, will you? I'm gonna grab that.
Night's End, that's the one you gave us for Christmas, right?
Yeah. It's basically the same game, but it's got some more RPG mechanics to it.
Okay. Cool. We'll check that out.
And as much as I enjoy it, it's definitely not something that just jumps to mind.
Bless you. I'll definitely check that out. I don't know if this needs to be reiterated or not, but everyone except for myself, the rest of the cast is all West Coast, and I'm East Coast. So the gaming we get to do is all online, and I don't get to board game with them. So
yeah, it's sad.
It is sad.
We'll have to figure out a way to. I mean, there's tabletop simulators and stuff.
If we get out to PAX East, you're gonna be there.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And once Elon Musk creates teleportation, it should be no problem.
I will say, with regards to Tabletop Simulator, it has gone a long way since the first time we tried it years ago.
Is it much better now?
I was playing a version of like Kingdom Death Monster, on there, and it was incredibly solid. The scripting was very, very good. And I don't know if I would play that with lots of people, but simpler games I think are very doable.
Well, we should dry run, and then because it's always best to dry run. Get a hold of like, because it's kind of weird controlling dice in the game and stuff like that. And then definitely we should all just try playing.
Let's load up Snakes and Ladders and give it a swirl.
But I mean, like, there's levels of games too. Like, you can always go with the super easy games that really don't require much interaction. There's always like the Cards Against Humanity or those kind of games where there really is no table play.
You can play Cards Against Humanity online.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we'll try it with tabletop. Well, we could stream it too if we did Tabletop Simulator.
For sure.
But yeah, kind of going back to what we were doing last night, I think the biggest thing we played that I was most surprised with how fun it ended up being was Power Grid. Initially, because we've only played it one time before, and so we're sitting there reading the rules, and when you're reading them, you're kind of like, oh, Jesus, this game sounds horrible. But once you get into it, like, it's actually a super solid, fun game. And as always, Night Sun won because it was his first time playing the board game.
He tied.
I'm sorry, he tied. But still counts as a win. Because in our house, whenever Night Sun comes over and plays a game for the first time, he wins. It's happened so many times that we're like, okay, this is the first time we're playing it. He's gonna win, but at least next time we'll all have a chance. Per the usual how it works at our house.
Night Sun's beginner's luck is strong.
It's super solid. Yeah, definitely.
So I was actually gonna say before we get too long here, do we want to jump into our spotlight topic for this episode?
No, yeah. I want to say one more. No, I want to say one more thing, and that is, if you guys haven't played it, and we've been meaning to play it, we really want to try Captain Sonar. So if any of you guys out there,
as much as I think Captain Sonar is an amazing experience, I do not think it works from a digital sense at all. It is a table game only.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Is for the tabletop. For if any of you out there have played it and you want to comment and let me know how it is, our group really wants to try it, but we don't have 8 people. And if you guys, I don't know. I just feel like that's.
It's funny. We were just talking about that last night. That we only had 5 people, and at one point only 4 people here playing board games, and that was such a rarity in this house that we had under 6 people playing, and normally we're at 8, sometimes more, and like it's really hard to find board games for that many people to play all together, which is why we end up playing really big party games, or we play like Sentinels, but we adjust the rules for more people, or
we find weird rules for games online that allows us to play 35 people for some reason.
Right, exactly.
And then it's super painful because the
long.
turns are meant to take a long time.
But yeah, we very rarely have under 6, but 8 is the norm around here. And we were talking about how most other people have the opposite problem, where they're like, oh, we can't play those big games that really require huge
3
groups
players or whatever.
Because and so it's kind of funny, like how opposite sides of the tip, right? Either you don't have enough people, or you have way too many people. So like the kind of games you can play are limited by your group of friends.
I would say, in the case of Captain Sonar, though, I would say that is an amazing convention game.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Because basically playing with a handful of strangers, or maybe even 4 friends, or you and 3 others against 4 others. Because I don't think it's the kind of game that you would pull out a second time, ever.
Really?
I think it's an experience game. I don't see many people clamoring to go, I got to play it again.
Well, but I guess my only contention to that is that if I got stuck as an engineer first go around, I want to be captain at one point, or I want to be, the guy that runs the weaponry. I feel like the playability would lie.
Let me rephrase then the I don't see any more reason to play it than the couple of times to see it that from different eyes.
The different angles.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Well, cool. Why don't we go ahead and move into our spotlight topic, which I believe End of Line is going to start for us.
Yeah, I've been. If anyone's watched the previous Nerdcasts, I kind of bring it up every now and again. It's a game that's in currently pre-alpha called Pantheon, which is an MMORPG that is getting released in the hopefully semi-near future, the next year or two. It's been developed for a few years. And it's kind of an interesting game because it's kind of a throwback to old school MMOs back when the genre was kind of first starting off. It's more often than not kind of a throwback to EverQuest. I think it's meant to be, at least the community is kind of dubbing it as the spiritual successor to the first EverQuest game. Which, if you know EverQuest, you know there are two of them, but they're extremely different games. But this game is meant to be kind of like a throwback to that time and place in the MMO genre and kind of bring it forward to a more modern day MMO. There are a lot of interesting things I thought would be cool to discuss. I know all of you can know that I am super into Pantheon, and I'm really excited about it, and I've been following it for quite some time.
I could have sworn this is the first time we mentioned it.
I've never heard of this game.
And it's Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, right? That's
yes.
The full title.
Yep. But I thought it'd be very, very interesting to discuss some of the topics for the game for people who don't come from the same MMO background that I do. Because this game is very much being created for someone like me. So it's very difficult for me to be objective about what they're doing with the game and how the game's supposed to play, because I'm the type of gamer that they're kind of shooting for. So it's really low-hanging fruit for me, right? So because there's some very interesting mechanics in the game, I thought it'd be very interesting to throw these things at some people who don't and haven't played EverQuest and have that background, and get your thoughts on how the game's going to be, and if you think it's something you might like and why, or not like and why, and just kind of get some outside perspectives, because the community for Pantheon are people that are really excited about the game, and so it becomes this echo chamber, right? I thought it'd be really interesting to get some outside perspective on the game and see what you guys think about it.
Yeah.
Hit us with some stuff.
Well, I think, I mean, we have a show doc that we kind of all contribute to, and I think the first thing here is talking about like punishing mechanics, like slower combat, grind centric, groups required to be success. I think I think the problem that MMOs get themselves into is pandering to the casual player. Like they try to make things easier so that the gamers who like you said, like you, that want to play it and be challenged, feel like, oh, you're just kind of giving me everything and I don't have to work for it. But the opposite side of that coin is the rage-inducing. Well, the rage-inducing, like, I can't get past this thing because I either don't have like the skill level to get past it personally as a player, or I don't have the patience to deal with the mechanics or whatever it is. And so if you get stuck, I just keep thinking about stupid Secret World and that goddamn carnival and that I could not fucking get past it, and it was rage inducing. And so
you picked pistols. I'm sorry.
Well, I know it was my own fault, but I think that's
you picked a class at start. It's your fault for not being able to finish, being able to do the quest.
Thank you. But I think that's a very good point too. I mean, I tend to play squishy characters, so if you have to be able to take a lot of hits to get through something or whatever, and you're stuck behind whatever this current piece is of this quest or this dungeon or whatever, and you personally can't get past it, like, does that screw up your ability to move forward and get XP and progress because you're stuck? So I think that's where the balance of the coin is, right? Like, on one side, yes, it's fun for non-casual gamers where you really want to get in there, but then, like, at what point are you punishing yourself and you're like, all right, I give up, I'm not going to play this game anymore? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
End of line.
Yeah, let's go deeper into that. So the punishing mechanic wise, let's talk about the two most notable ones that are pretty immediate to players playing this game. The first one, let's just say hypothetically you're in a party and you have a group of friends and you're all together. And let's say Handor is responsible for people who play MMO, have played older MMOs, kind of understand the term of pulling, right? It's like you're pulling some monsters to your party to kill them in what you're hopefully is a safe space where you're not like aggroing other things. So you can like contain the threat, kill it, and then continue to do it. So that's kind of how EverQuest works. So let's say hypothetically Handor is pulling mobs and he says, you know what? I think we can handle 2 packs of these at the same time. I'm just going to pull them both. He does. You're overwhelmed and you all die. So 2 things happen in this scenario. 1, you all lose experience. So you've lost some of your experience that you've accumulated in the last 20 minutes or so of gameplay. And 2, you now spawn naked and you don't have any of your equipment. And you guys are in a dungeon now. What are your thoughts on that?
So, I'm actually a fan of roguelikes and the more heavy death penalties for some of my playstyles. I am fine being punished for my own mistake. I am not a fan of being punished for others.
I think it definitely increases that toon death fear, though, right? Like when there's more punishing death things, it's not just, oh crap, I have to run back to my body. It's like, no, like I have serious toon death fear. Like I don't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this same story, if Handor is known for being not good at video games,
poor Handor.
it disincentivized me to play with him, even though he's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I feel first of all we need to make a disclaimer that Handor is not in fact bad at video games. We're just using that as an example.
I think he's saying Handor, but he means Kurt. I don't.
No, I just mean in general, if there are people who are not perfect. If
I get it.
If someone accidentally clicks a minecart and disappears from the raid, and we have to go save him,
or you're bad at tab targeting and you accidentally hit things frequently, and so you're constantly fucking the party. I mean, you would stop playing with your friend who's bad at playing because it's now causing
detrimental to you to play.
Right, exactly. You'd be a lot more selective about who your group is, like who you're playing with. I don't think I mind there being a death. You know, there being consequences to death. It just means you're also going to go a lot slower because of that fear that you wouldn't be able to handle whatever it is.
Yeah. Right. Historically, I think any of us has helped a friend level up. You know, be it I take my max level character and I go run a low level dungeon and I raffle stomp everything within 6 mile radius. And look at all the XP you have.
Yeah.
And that's just a case of, hey, it costs me a little bit of time, but I get to hang out with my friend, and it's just that time. Like my only cost for doing that is time. If you add a potential of death for this kind of situation, not only are you costing me the time of that I'm actually helping, but you're actually adding the cost of time for me to get back to where I was.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's big. Well, and you said you spawn naked. Does that mean you have to run back and loot your corpse? Or are you just, like, your shit's gone?
No. It's on your corpse. You just have to go and collect your belongings again. The added difficulty to that, or the challenge, is that, let's just say hypothetically you're in a dungeon.
Yeah.
Your corpses are still in that dungeon, and there are a lot of monsters that are now kind of inhabiting that dungeon. So it's not like you guys can safely go and just walk up and get your corpses. Now, obviously, it depends on where you're fighting at. If you're fighting in an outside area, like in a hill, and you're killing whatever, it's a little bit more different. But if you're in, like, say, a dungeon, there's the risk versus reward, where you have that added threat. But we all know that's where the nicest treasure is always in the dungeon. So if you're wanting to get that nice treasure, or in this case, maybe the better experience, you're throwing on the added risk that, man, we have to be really, really careful because if Handor pulls those 2 packs again, it's going to be really hard for us to get down here and get our corpses or get our equipment back.
Right.
So,
well, it also means that if you come up against something that you really want to beat, maybe it drops something you want, that, like, kind of in like a raid or a dungeon now where you do the boss fight and you fail and you're like, okay, we learned the mechanics. Now we'll come back and we'll try it again and actually do better at the mechanics. That do it over and over again till you succeed thing isn't going to happen because you're punished when you die.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either going to go in like very well prepared or not at all, because that failure of dying to that boss is the risk versus reward. Like, it's just not worth it if one person is going to get the piece of gear they need from it.
Well, I mean, that's Dark Souls, right? That's
the
only difference there is in Dark Souls, it's only you.
Like, well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. I'm okay with my own mistakes costing.
Right.
But if I'm in a raid with, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 people, I don't know what the raid limits are, and one person missteps the dance,
then everybody fails.
Well, I mean, at that point, that's when community becomes an issue, right? Like, and that's something that's
point
in modern MMOs.
But to counter that,
guilds don't matter anymore. The guilds are not really a thing. It's a chat room, and it has been a chat room for a really long time. With these MMOs, you cannot go it alone. Now that has its drawbacks, but you cannot really go it alone. It's not effective. It's not really efficient. They've made this is public knowledge. They've made a point of even emphasizing that they really don't want Pantheon to be a solo-centric game. In fact, your ability to solo in this game for actual equivalent content to your level and above is not really something that's going to be very easy to do. If that's the case, it's doubling down on the community aspect, and it's something they've really put an emphasis on, that you really have to make friends. Those bonds are not just a pro, it's a requirement. Having a guild, having friends to go and do things with, say, hey, I really need this sword. It's an amazing sword. I need 5 people to come and farm this camp with me to help me kill these gnolls, to get this parchment, to get this recipe, to do this crafting recipe or whatever have it. It's not something you can do by yourself. And so friends will have to help you. And it becomes this kind of give and take where, okay, well, I'm going to help you, but I need this bracer from this dungeon next week. So you're going to come and heal for me there so I can get my brace. Okay, cool. It becomes this kind of thing. But yeah, community becomes a centric thing.
The problem that I always have with those types of things in MMOs, which is kind of funny because like an MMO is supposed to be a multiplayer game, right? Yeah, is that like I have such limited time to play video games. Like I love playing, like if I could just sit at my computer and play video games all day, I would. Like that's really what I want to be doing all day long. But I need money and I kind of like my job. So, and I have a family, so like I have things that I have to do other than play video games. But if I were into Pantheon, I wouldn't be able to get the stuff that I need for my character because everybody would be busy doing whatever part of the thing that they're doing and not be able to stop and come over and help me because I'm way behind from everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely limits the type of players they're going to get to very serious players who have not, more time to play video games and spend that dedicated time that people like me who want to but can't, they're going to kind of get left out of that kind of game.
Well, yeah, I mean, pacing and scheduling becomes a serious issue because if your guild is out leveling you, then you might as well leave that guild. Like you're no longer used to them, and in fact, you're a hindrance because now they have to go back and do content they've already done.
Right.
To catch you up, and that's going to continue to happen because once you're caught up, it's not like you're going to stay caught up.
Right. I think that's what I was trying to say, but you said it better than I did. But yeah, exactly. Like you end up falling behind, and it ends up becoming a problem.
Do you feel like the mentoring system? I mean, there's 100 different iterations of the mentoring system, but to not reinvent the wheel, do you feel like that system is successful in other games? Do you feel like having a system where someone could mentor down to a lower level and still gain experience and things like that they would get when they were higher level?
Certain games, there's a handful. A handful of games have done it on a million different variations. You've got the EverQuest 2, which personally is my favorite just because of how it's done and how it doesn't change the core experience. And EverQuest 2, the way they do it is you just scale down, but the math is very bad. So you still have all your abilities. And basically, if you scale down a max level character to level 20 or whatever, relatively low level, you are hell on wheels and, pull the dungeon, AoE, everyone wins. And I enjoy that because I'm usually the one doing the work.
Yeah. I do not like EverQuest because of power leveling. The reason I did not play EQ2 is because the only experience I've ever had is standing at the front of the dungeon watching Gordon kill or watching Nightsun kill everything.
And that was going to be my second point. Yeah. But I could definitely see how that would hurt the low level player experience.
The scaling would have to be better. They would have to find a really, really good way to have it to where you are very equivalent to that level, where you're not just a broken character.
But at the same note,
EverQuest 2 didn't do that well.
If you are not going to be a broken character, if you are lowering yourself to that lower level and effectively doing content that is therefore challenging for you to do, and you require that full group, you require your Trinity and all the support and a methodology as if you were doing a legitimate dungeon, then you should damn well be rewarded as if you were doing challenging content.
Yeah.
Which is an advantage to the game itself too, because it allows one of the things that was always funny about a long-standing game. You look at your WoWs, your EQs, or probably even EverQuest. I don't have much experience there, but you have old dungeons and old raids that you did them when you were level 10 or even max level in a previous expansion. So your Molten Core, for example. Mm-hmm. You never go back. That's just dead content. It is pixels in the game that is used once and never seen again. But if you add a mentoring system and incentivize people to go back, build your community up by leveling up lower players, you also fill up those low-level dungeons again.
That is a very good point, because if, say Nightsun was coming back to help my ass level, which is, I'm usually the person who's dangling behind everybody else in the leveling, and you came back to do content with me, you would get to do content again that you probably are like, oh yeah, I remember doing this was fun. And if something dropped for you, and when you did go, mentor back up to your normal level, that item went with you and leveled up with you to what you were, then it's worth that you came and helped me, because you actually got something out of it and you got to do that old content.
Yeah.
I don't know about leveling gear, because I think that would the effort required to balance that kind of system would be astronomical, and I don't think anyone on Earth is actually capable of that. But in a system which I'm willing to bet that they're going, because it's an EverQuest homage, gear will it. And I don't know if you can answer this or not, but is gear going to be BOE or BOP? Or is it going to be like EverQuest, where most things can be freely traded on the market?
My understanding is that items will be very economy-driven, where you can trade them.
Okay. So then in that case, even though that sword isn't going to level back up with me, well, all right, well, I'm just going to take it and put it in the auction house. And I've been rewarded, with experience, or, if they've added an alternate advancement system.
Right.
Or in the case of EverQuest, you have a sword now, so if you wanted to make, hey, I'm thinking about making a ranger. Hey, I'll go with Gidget to this dungeon and try and get that sword for my ranger. I'm going to make so he's twinked out and he's stronger, so I have an easier level experiencing with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh, exactly.
Or, hey, Gidget, you need this thing? Well, Kurt's not able to play today, but I know he needs that sword, so why don't we kill those two camps and we'll try and get that sword for Kurt, so when he gets on, we can give it to him.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, or sell it to him.
Or sell it to him.
Capitalism, bitch.
Capitalism. At a discounted rate, but
Right. Yeah. Well, guild rate, whatever.
Guild rate.
Sure. Yeah, item economy becomes a very and I'm not going to speak to Pantheon, but I will say in the case of EverQuest, again, we're operating under the presumption that it's very similar. Item economy is a very big thing, because it's not like the World of Warcrafts where there's just gear pinatas, right? You may be level 25 or 30 before you even replace that ringmail gloves of nothing, right? It's just like 3 armor class, right? It does nothing for you. It's not that kind of game, or at least EverQuest wasn't. So you could be level 30 and you get this shield with a +1 stamina, and you're like, holy shit, I got an extra 10 hit points. Like, that's a big deal for a game like this. So you don't get a ton of items. And so it makes the economy for those items much stronger. So that level 20 sword that Night Sun may have gotten, helping you out, Gidget, provided mentorship's even a thing, could have very good value and make it worthwhile too.
I mean, the other option is doing like a token economy, where if you're doing the mentor thing and you're doing lower content, that like you get some type of token reward for doing that content, and then it trades in for something at your personal level.
Yeah, like turn in certain amount of items for tokens that you can trade for something.
Right.
Else.
I think EverQuest 2 actually did something similar with the Chrono Mages, where you actually, when you force down leveled.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did get a currency. You didn't buy gear with it, but it was like mounts or cosmetics.
Yeah.
Like some type of token economy to like, okay, I don't need this sword. I don't have anyone in the guild that needs it. I already have all my alt set. Like, there's still like something else that it can be traded in for.
To loop back to the EverQuest 2 thing, and I people are very polarized about EverQuest 2. I know Knightson and I have a very specific perspective on EverQuest 2. In that, differently from Knightson, since he didn't play really EverQuest 1. But for me, I don't equate EverQuest 2 to EverQuest 2. Like, I could call EverQuest 2 something completely separate. Like, another game that happens to be a Norath is what I would call it. But it did a lot of things really, really right. And I want to bring that to our next topic. Crafting. Crafting has largely become kind of an afterthought in an MMO. It's okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get to max rank in it so I can have this 1 or 2 perk thing, right? But I can kind of get it from anyone. My hopes is that Pantheon kind of takes another book out of kind of finds a nice hybrid between the first 2 games. EverQuest 2, for all of its faults, is the only MMO I know of in existence that did crafting correctly. It is a perfect system, in my opinion. I know that's a strong word, but I feel like it is what you would hope a crafting system would be. In that, one, the things you craft matter. They're very good. In most cases, they're better than the things you can get on your own, but they require effort to be able to make them. And 2, the crafting system isn't a point, click, and craft. It is an actual like mini game that you have to actually contribute. So you feel like you're interacting with the game as you're crafting this thing. Like, you're hammering the metal and you have to like do these little triggers to say, oh, it's overheating, cool it down, and you have to do that whole thing. It's like this little, so you feel engaged in the crafting system. It's not just a point, click, craft.
Right.
So you essentially get to
craft all, tab out.
Right.
Well,
there becomes a pride in knowing how to make things and knowing how to make things well. In the early days of EverQuest 2, there were people were famed for I can make pristine gear.
And they can do the mini game the best.
They could do the mini game well enough that you weren't wasting your rare mats, which at that point were going for astronomical rates. They
were very, very hard.
And so you would have, it's like, oh no, I'm not. I don't want my sword right now. I'm waiting until this guy gets on because I know he can make this good.
Yeah. And to me, something like that, a crafting system like that, opens up a new avenue for the economics of the game to be known as, a well-established blacksmith or a well-established herbalist or whatever, to be known as an alchemist or someone who does well at that profession is in itself an accolade. I think in a game, you don't see that. You never ever see that.
Once again, to go back to EverQuest 2, my characters, I never had anyone over level 30 in adventuring. I had 2 max level crafter.
It was like an entire side game. You have people that only do crafting.
Right, yeah. That's fantastic.
So let's take this a step further. let's add. So we've talked about the ease of use, the fun factor. Let's talk about the difficult piece.
Yeah.
Getting the materials to craft. We're kind of used to MMOs being like, okay, I need an item. Let's just WoW is probably the most is the easiest example. Let's be honest. It's the biggest MMO. So let's just use it as an example. You take a skinner, you skin a crocodile, you get some skin, you use that skin to buy some stuff off a vendor, and you combine them to make an item, and you skill up. Let's take the buying piece out of the equation, and let's say it's not just skin. Let's say you need a skin, and you need a flask of water, and you need a pearl, and you need a wings of a fairy or something like that. And let's say these items were in very different places, and the only way to gather them was to kill them and collect them or buy them. And you had to collect one of each of those things for one combine for 1 point. So now we've taken the crafting side, and let's set that aside, and let's put it to just the harvesting side. You have harvesting to say, okay, I have a harvester that's going to go out and farm this wood and get this mine and this tin or these leathers. But I also have harvesters that are go out and kill these fairies and get these wings and kill these, these crocodiles and get the teeth or whatever. So now you have an economy of crafting parts. What are you guys' thoughts on that? In an MMO where the crafting, the gear is good, it's of good value and a quality to what you can get in a dungeon. But now you're talking about having to have all this back-end effort to actually level your crafting and make the said item.
I feel like it goes back to making your guild really important again. Because as a guild, if you guys are all making the effort to collect these things and discuss, like, hey, we've got crafters that we need to help supply, it makes that, like, we're going to work as a team to try to collect everything we can to help the crafters of our guild, right? I think it makes your guild and your group of friends more important.
You've just inadvertently gapped the hole that you brought up earlier, which is if you're someone that only has the limited amount of time and you know you're never going to catch up, what if in your guild, instead of being the person that's doing the hardest content, you're the person that's logging on to gather, or you're the person that's logging on, and that's who you are to your guild. There's a what do you call that?
There's a hierarchy, but there's also, but not even within the hierarchy. It's like everyone has a job at that point, right? Like if I'm just coming on to be a crafter and I'm just like really good at being an alchemist, right? It doesn't matter that my character is shit level. You guys are going to go collect all the high level mats for me, and I'm going to create all the flasks and whatever you guys are going to need to get through the content that you're doing. And now as a group of friends, we're contributing to the fun of each other's games without us all having to do the same content at the same time.
So here's why I brought this up. One second. She brought up alchemy, and I want to use this as an example. Let's circle back to the original scenario where you guys died in that dungeon. What if I told you that we could go, and before we went in that dungeon, I said, okay, we're going into a really difficult area, guys. If we die, maybe we want to have Gidget craft us some invisibility potions that we can put in our bank just in case we need to invis down to our corpses.
Right. Yeah.
We could go farm up those materials ahead of time, get 10 or so potions, let's get them in our bank, so that if that scenario happened, maybe we could stealth down to our corpses.
Exactly.
We've created an economy, a need for that role. It's not just I need a flask to make better stats. Now, it's a necessary utility craft for us.
So, I love that concept, because invisibility and water walking has always been back to the World of Warcraft thing. They've always been a niche potion, right? Strangle kelp has always been kind of since vanilla, Strangle kelp was useless, and I can't even believe that I remember the herb, but that's a fantastic idea, and as long as you don't inadvertently later in a game, like Pantheon, accidentally make a potion like invisibility or water walking or whatever, and accidentally make it niche or make it just a like fireworks or something else. It's just useless.
Right. Right.
Keep its importance and its necessity. Keep that life that it has.
Kurt, what were you gonna say?
Okay, so my thought on all of this is everyone has a different thing they hate to do. I can fish all day in WoW.
I spent an hour fishing.
But if I have to stand in front of a wave of mobs to get and cast AoEs to get cloth, I will shoot myself in the face. Like, sure. It's the same thing. I'm clicking one button while shit comes to me, but I can't stand waves of mobs running at me. But I can sit in front of some calming water and catch fish.
Yeah.
As long as the game doesn't require me to do this grind, to the grind I hate to get to the grind I like, I'm okay. But if I have to power level so that I can be the right level to do the crafting mini game, I'm gonna hate it.
Well,
but if I can just sit in town and do the crafting mini game and level from that, or like whatever it is, and someone else can bring me the shit so that I can do the part that I like,
I think that goes back.
Good.
That goes back to your guild, though. That goes back to where you're like, I don't like this kind of grinding, and the other person's like, oh god, I don't like this kind of grinding. You're like, all right, I'll go get your mats, you go get my mats, and we'll do the kind of grinding we're okay with.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is if the game gates the thing I think is fun behind shit I hate,
right? That's true.
Then I won't do it. I won't play it at all because I'm not going to do the shit I hate to get to the thing I like.
There will definitely be a gate. Like, I mean, I can't speak specifically until we actually get in the game and check it out. But harvesting, I think this is public knowledge. There will be a certain degree of actual harvesting. You know, i.e. there's a node on the ground, right? And you go and you dink, 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 and you get the metal, right? And then as you're dink-dinking the metal, you have a chance to get, like, a better quality of metal, like the rarer metal to make the better gear. So you have that piece of the harvesting, but I think, and I don't know, again, it's in pre-alpha, but I think there will always be a degree of items needed to craft that are not going to be purchasable. Like, I think there will always be that, okay, I need to get 25 more points in leatherworking. Okay, well, I need about 100 skins from these rats. So I'm going to have to either go kill these rats, or I'm going to have to buy the rat skins from someone else, which, again, and at least in EverQuest, one of the first things I ever did, I know you guys have known I used to play on, like, Project 1999, which is, like, this throwback old-school EverQuest server. Like, one of the first things I ever did in that game, because I had no money, is I would go kill skeletons. I would literally just find a camp of skeletons and I would kill them for hours. And the only reason I would do that was to get the bones to sell to necromancers who need bones to summon their pets. So there was always a need for bones, and I knew I could get some little startup cash to just at least buy myself a weapon or something. I think that necessity will still exist. I don't think there will ever be a, you know, hey, I want to do crafting. I can just go and easily get all the stuff that's accessible to me to do the crafting because I enjoy it. I don't foresee that being the case. If you have a guild that's totally like, hey, Kurt, we know you love crafting, so if you're going to be our guild crafter, we will hook you up. Oh, yeah. Well, EverQuest 2 was like that. You had tons of people that would go out and... Night Sun, when EverQuest first came out, most guilds literally were like, we need X amount of people harvesting. We need to level up these crafters as quickly as possible. And those crafters were just hammering along crafting for the first, you know, however long until they got leveled up. And some other interesting aspect, I really hope they do this. I don't know if they will. But one of the cooler aspects of that crafting system was that one crafter could make that up. It gets more complicated where, let's just say, Handor needs, hey, Handor, your sword is really outdated, and we're going to be spending the next few days hunting in this kobold dungeon. So let's get you that kobold +2 dagger, whatever. It requires this type of enchanted ingot. It requires this hilt. It requires this potion from an alchemist. So now I got to get Gidget to craft an alchemy elixir to use in the recipe. Night Sun has to enchant an ingot that he crafted as a miner, but he needs an enchanter to enchant it. And then I need to go to an armor smith to make this hilt, you know, weaponsmith to make the hilt. So now it's gotten more complicated where I have each crafter, I need 3 different crafters to create a part to combine into a finished product. Will that work? Is that too much? Yeah. Is that too challenging?
I don't think so. I think, well, for some people it's going to be... Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so this ties back to the previous statement of mob interdependency. In that you could have... it's a very different system if, for example, let's say fairy wings. You need fairy wings in a recipe.
Yeah. And fairies are only in this zone and this area of the zone.
But if you can only get fairy wings from level 9 fairies, yep, and there's no level 60 fairies,
sure,
you create a very real problem if you need fairy wings to level. Mm-hmm. And because all of a sudden, if there's nobody farming fairy wings, because everyone's past that content or nobody wants to go to that zone, you are stuck. You cannot level.
Yeah.
So in the same note with interdependency, you run into a very real risk of, if you require a level 9 hilt to make your level 9 sword, you require a level 9 hilt maker. Mm-hmm. You know, they're very creative with their classes. If there is no level 9 hilt maker, because, I don't know, the level 9 hilt maker is now a level 50 hilt maker, and why would he be making level 9 hilts? Mm-hmm. Or there's no level 9 hilt maker because there's only a level 2 hilt maker, because to get to level 3 hilt maker, he needs to a level 6 stud maker, and the level 6 stud maker is level 50, so he's not making a level 6 studs. It works when you are part of a large group. Like, mm-hmm, if you are willing to, and it's the same kind of note as power leveling adventuring class. If you have a group of people who's willing to take a personal loss to help you, then it works. Or if you are on that wave of the first people to touch content, it works. I've seen it from personal experience in EverQuest 2. It literally was. To make a backpack, you required hides from skinning, or from trapping, or you could get it off mobs. You required alchemist potions, 3 of them, 3 different kinds. And you required a buckle, which came from a blacksmith. And the buckle required metal, and the potions required herbs. And what was the other weird thing you needed? It was,
I think you required the frame.
Oh yeah, it was a frame, which was made by outfitters, like a tailor.
Yeah.
So you were required to have relationships with, depending on what class you were, with upwards of 4 or 5 different crafters, which I love. The system is super fun, but in the same note, you can very easily see that if you fell behind, no one's going to help you. Yeah. Like and the only way that system continues working is if you have a constant flux of new players moving into the system.
Mm-hmm. They're all making their thing. Yeah.
There's 2 things I want to note on this, and I don't disagree with you. One, if you're a crafter and crafting is important, and therefore it's central to the economy, it's rational to think that crafters will be able to make money off of this, right? So it's like, hey, you provide me the materials and I will charge you X amount of money to combine it. Because I've spent all this time and effort leveling this crafting up, and it's not easy. So if I'm going to combine this for you, you give me the materials and I'm going to charge you, let's say, 20 gold, right? To make the combine for you. So I've made money. As a crafter, I can turn that profit around and buy the materials that I need to continue leveling up my crafting. So it's potentially self-sustaining, depending on if the economy is strong for crafting materials. And I think if crafting is really really important and of very high value to do, it is possible to some degree to be sustaining. And the second part is, one second, I'll get right to you. And the second part is we mentioned, Nightson had mentioned about having people in older content. Wouldn't this kind of take care of that problem too? Like, if you had people needing those fairy wings, it's like, hey, I want to make my alt, or my buddy really needs this sword, but I need fairy wings. Isn't this giving an incentive for people to go back into older content to get those materials to craft, to get that to the crafter to make the items? I'm going back to these dungeons and back to these areas to farm those materials. Doesn't that reuse that content as well?
You're taking it from the perspective of guild. I'm taking it from perspective of someone who doesn't have that support structure that is very interested in helping you, because that's a loss of time. Because if you have that level 50 character going, oh, I want to help you out and get these fairy wings, it is a loss of my effort to go kill fairies to get fairy wings when I could go kill dragons and get dragon teeth, which I need for me.
However, I want to point out that you needed to make Jeeves in WoW and ran back and did a fuck ton of old content to get all the goddamn pieces it takes to build Jeeves. And you weren't getting anything out of it other than the parts you needed to make that thing. And you did it because that's the thing you wanted and you spent the time on it. So even in this game, it would be the same thing where you're like, well, I'm going to go spend the time because the thing I'm making is important to...
But that's what I'm saying. It works from the high-level perspective looking down. If you don't have a support structure, there's no way to look up and go...
That's true.
I think that's an important thing, though. If you don't have the support structure. Everest is not set up for that.
I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish. But... I think, no, I'm not an economics major by any means, and I can't presume to know the effects of putting this out there as an idea. But if those principles that you said existed in EQ2, which was to needing the 3 potions and needing the frame and the buckle, again, if we could somehow. Or if they could somehow, within that crafting system of Pantheon, scrunch down the materials and have that buckle be required through level 1 and continuously. Because if I think about it, when I'm as a I've watched 100 blacksmiths. I've seen them do 100 times the horseshoes. Horseshoes never. You always need horseshoes, and they always need the same tools to make the horseshoe, right? It's not something that just goes away because you're a better blacksmith. You're when you're a journeyman and an apprentice, and now you're a master blacksmith. You don't all of a sudden stop needing the tongs required.
The base tools.
The problem with that kind of system, though, is you basically crash the market on buckles, because if there's any money in it, the level 50 can make that buckle a lot easier and a lot faster than level 1 can.
Yep. Yeah, it kills the economy for those items.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it basically becomes that purchasable item that you wouldn't want the system to be. This easily accessible material. Yeah, there's no point in having multiple different kinds of materials if all of them are readily available.
Because if MMOs have taught me anything, it's that people don't understand opportunity cost when they price things. Which means that the floor of any price of any item is literally less than the vendor sell price.
Well,
it's absolutely hysterical. You can run an auction mod on WoW right now, and you will find items on there that sell for less than a vendor sells. You can literally make a profit by buying those items, walking 3 steps, and selling to a vendor.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've seen it. I don't know then, because you're just not gonna please everybody. I mean, I guess you're just gonna
just please me.
I'm your market. Please me.
I feel like what that says is that the game is pushing you to be an MMO and interact with other people and become a part of the guild and find your support. And it's not conducive to like End of Line was saying. It's not conducive to individual play. You have to have a group going forward, and so if you're just starting out and you don't have that support group and you need those buckles or whatever, you're gonna have to go find yourself a group of people that you're gonna work with.
The problem is on the crafting side of things. Like if you start on new and you start the adventuring side, the game is about adventuring. It's about dungeon crawling, getting loot experience. So finding people your own level to push forward without even a support structure, just finding people at level 5 to play with. You can find them. Most people don't take to the crafting system. in general. Like I've found that if it takes any more effort than I collect items and push craft all, most people back out of crafting.
See, I don't know though. Looking at EverQuest 2, how many people did we know that didn't have crafting, that didn't do crafting?
You only crafted when I forced you.
But I ended up with like almost capped like 4 different crafters, and I hate crafting. I hate it. I hate it. But in that game, it was so immersive, or it was fun to do, that it was like, okay, I actually enjoy crafting. What? And so, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Figure out why you actually crafted. Now,
for my earring of Solstice.
Oh, that's what it was. It was the earring of Solstice.
Yeah.
That's what it was. The permanent move speed buff.
Well, yeah. You know. So, yeah, it was a huge incentive. And again, that's something that game did right. There was an item you could craft where every master crafter would craft you a piece of something, and you had to be a master crafter yourself, and you could get this earring clicky that gave you innate movement speed. So there was actually having a max level crafter had an incentive to PvE, which was something very interesting, which some people hated.
In all honesty, it all really boils down to we're talking about something that's unavoidable, and it's theoretical. Anyways, we have no idea the influx or the player amount that's going to come into Pantheon when it launches. We have no idea the lifespan of new members continually logging in to make the community fresh and vibrant. Those are all theoretical situations. So as far as really what it boils down to is if Pantheon wants to make a certain type of crafting system with a certain type of life expectancy within the game, that if you're not along that wave to ride that wave, and you're gonna struggle because you joined up 3 months later, then that's the life that you're gonna live in that MMO, and that's, you have to understand that going into it when you buy the game, and so just have that expectation, you know.
So I want to throw out something that I think doesn't get talked about a lot, which is the immersive experience. Because if I want to be the best blacksmith on this server, right, and I have to stand in town and say buckles for sale, like trying to get somebody to come and talk to me, I am playing a blacksmith.
Sure.
So let me give you a funny anecdote on literally that.
Yeah.
So early on in EverQuest 2, there was a bug which if you filled up your bags, anything you crafted would go into an overflow inventory. Now, one thing about that game was it actually had weight. So items, if you got over a certain weight, you were slower. Then slower, then slower. Then you can't move. The bug was items in your overflow inventory don't count for weight. So I spent, I don't know, 8 hours crafting backpacks because that's how much, to level off of. So I prepped all the materials and I made 200 backpacks. The next morning they patched.
Oh no.
And so I was sitting in town, could not move. And so I literally had to just start shouting, backpacks for sale, backpacks for sale. I would buy backpacks.
Someone saved me. That's awesome.
I can't do anything. I have 2 backpacks. Please help me.
Kurt, I do not foresee there being an auction house in this game. I don't know that for a fact. I don't foresee there being an auction house in this game. In EverQuest 1, in most servers, they had a place called the East Commons Tunnel. And it was this big, long tunnel that connected the East Commons from the North Road Desert over near Freeport, the main city.
Sounds dirty.
And anytime you were a new player and you walked by this tunnel, you were super duper confused because you were like, why in the fuck are there like 1,000 people lining the walls of this tunnel? And why is everyone spamming shit in here? It was the market. It wasn't an official market. It was just the place that the community decided, hey, it's a really accessible place. that we're all going to go and sell our shit. It was the bazaar, right?
It sounds so funny because it's so much like, I don't know, a New York subway or like some, you know.
It was the hangout place. If you were looking for a group and you had nothing better to do, you would go to the tunnels and you would try and hawk your shit and sell it to people. Like, that's just what you did. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be like that necessarily, but here's a big difference. Back then, we didn't have the internet. I mean, back then, you know, back in the 1999s.
You mean we were connecting to a video game on the internet, but we did not have internet?
Well, it wasn't quite as accessible as it is now. Like,
we didn't have Google.
There are forums now where you can sell items. There are searchable databases that you could probably post and say, hey, I'm selling 35 fairy wings for 5 gold each. I don't necessarily have to go to the East Common tunnels to find that out. I could probably go to a website and just say, hey, fairy wings. Oh, Gidget selling 25 fairy wings for 5 gold each. Done. PM Gidget, I want to buy those fairy wings. And we meet up somewhere and have that transaction. But there's interaction. I have to meet her somewhere. We have to find a way to connect. I can't just mail it to her or, you know, buy it off the auction house. So I think that will exist to some degree.
Well, I'll go with another anecdote real quick on the same note. I remember literally typing /whois space Taylor, or not Taylor, but Scribe 40 because I needed patterns.
Yep.
Only one in the entire server was in the opposing faction city. So I was like, you know what? I want to buy like 400 patterns.
Yep.
And so like, okay. So hit me up like 2 hours later. And as a little level 10 character, had to cross basically the danger equivalent of leaving Stormwind and making it to the Dark Portal. So going through like Swamp of Sorrows and to Blasted Lands as a level 10 character going, oh my god, running. Finally met up with him, made the deal, and then had to make that trip home again.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just realized how excruciating that would be if you lose XP and you drop your items every single time.
You gotta go back and get your shit.
You gotta go back and get your shit.
Gonna eat your ass.
You're 100% right, man. Those invisibility potions from Gizzard are sounding pretty good right about now.
Yeah.
So,
not to mention Spirit of Wolf potions in the case of EverQuest, like something that helps your movement speed. You know.
Well, I mean, okay, so now we're in a situation where my guild or my community, right, the community on the server, you know everybody because you have to, because you need to know who that fucking scribe is so that next time you need some shit, you can go talk to them.
You're right.
So now your server is a community. You actually have to talk to people. You have to make allies, right? Like, oh, I'm going to go help you with this thing because I know that next time I'm going to need your help.
Yep.
And so that's tit for tat, right?
Yep.
But what happens when, now I'm in your guild and I'm gone for 3 weeks or whatever because work was stressful and I'm not going to fucking die over and over again. And I get back and everyone's far away from me and I'm no longer useful to anyone. And now I am just a liability.
Liability.
How long is that guild going to carry me? Like, I got to be real funny in chat. Like, you know, I gotta provide something. And it is not going to be mechanical in the game.
Sure. I'm going to Kevin Hart my way through the field.
Yeah.
Well, but I think this goes back to pulling in something that has nothing to do with MMOs, but the way that we as a group tend to play Minecraft, where like we all get on and we're all doing the same thing and we're building stuff together
for a day, and then I go to sleep and Night Sun doesn't.
Yeah, and Night Sun stays up and we come back and we've got like a fusion reactor going or something.
Well, keep in mind what the second step of that statement is. We play disparately, and then all of a sudden you guys realize that all your friends are beyond you and you stop playing.
Yeah.
Right. But the other point is you either stop playing or the friend that passed you comes back and is like, oh, here's all the things you missed. You know, here's stuff that will help you level your crafting up to where everybody else is because I've got an abundance of supplies for whatever it is you're doing right now. Or I knew you weren't going to be on for 2 weeks because you warned me, so I made 2 of everything. And like that's why you make friends in a game, is so that they continue to care that when you come back, they're going to want you to be part of that group. They don't leave you behind. They prepare for the fact that, oh, Kurt said he's going on vacation for a week, or Kurt warned us that work's going to be crazy for 2 weeks. So when he gets back, like, we don't want him to be behind. So we prepared for that fact and just got extra of everything to keep you. You may not be the same level, but you at least aren't going to fall behind on whatever else it is that you could fall behind on.
Kurt,
like, that's why that's so important.
You hit the most important thing, I think, of all this. So you said, because everyone knows everyone, and because you have to kind of lean on each other, everyone gets to know each other.
Yeah.
And that is the case. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I love the most about this kind of game. And this is going to seem like such a small thing. In the major MMOs now, when you meet someone and you group with them, for a lot of the time, you'll never see that person again in your life. You'll never have any interaction with that person again. In this kind of a game, your identity matters. If you're a fucking asshole, word gets around that you're a fucking asshole. And for a game that you actually have to rely on each other and group with each other, that shit does not just go away.
Yeah, but how do you keep playing then?
You make friends with the other assholes.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you all the different times where people have been complete and total jerks, and we're like, dude, I'm not grouping with you again. And that person will be sitting in a zone looking for group, and someone will shout and say, don't group with that guy. He said something horribly racist in my party to one of my friends. Yeah, these dudes are fucking jerk. That guy will sit at that zone line for hours looking for a group if everyone's like, fuck that guy. Your identity in the game actually matters. Whereas now, you're just a character with a name, but it doesn't really have any representation. In a community game, it does matter.
Well, let's go back to how we met Handor. I mean, with the way that WoW has changed, we would never have become friends with you.
Nope.
Because there would have been no point. There's no need to. And so changing that in Pantheon will put it back to you actually become friends with the people that you're in your guild with, that you do group with, that you did a, hey, who wants to run this thing with me? And you got some cool people and added them to your group, and they become lifelong friends with you and your friends. I mean, adds back in that piece that obviously was really important to our group of friends,
right?
10 years ago.
Hey guys, we're going to that dungeon. We have Night Sun, Gidget, Handor, Kurt, and an end of line. Man, we really need an enchanter if we're going to go down in that dungeon, because it's a lot of crowd control. Anybody know an enchanter? Well, let me see who's online. /who space enchanter space 40-50. I want to see who's an enchanter 10 to 50. Oh shit, that guy's on. Dude, I grouped with him before. He's amazing. Get him.
Right?
That happens. That does not happen in WoW. Like, not really.
Yeah, but I have trouble remembering the names of the people I work with.
But I love that aspect of it. Like, you grew with these people, you remember them for their qualities. Maybe they're not the best enchanter, but she's really cool. We had a lot of fun playing with her. Let's get her in here to heal for us.
Well, and that's something. So what you're talking about is a different type of skill that not everyone is going to have, but you're going to want 2 to 3 people in your guild that do. You're talking about community building, because I am shit at community building in MMOs because I'm not going to remember their names. I never think to like, oh, that guy did great TPS. He never stood in fire. I should invite him, or I should PM him, and we should group up again. Like, I never think that.
But you wouldn't in a game where you don't lose experience and lose your corpse and shit. Now, that's hyper-focused.
I'm going to remember the guy who fucking got us killed 4 times in a row. I'm never group with that guy again.
Yes, you will.
But that guy.
Yes, you will.
But unfortunately, you can't /ignore people on your friends list. I've been trying.
You can't stop playing with yourself.
Yeah. Let's move to combat. So,
good.
It's pretty important to an MMO as far as the PvE or adventuring aspect. So everyone's kind of gotten the MMOs in the last few years have kind of been centrally focused around the action combat, which I enjoy. I think it's a very cool system. The Guild War 2s and the Secret Worlds and whatnot, and then you have your more action based old school MMO like the World of Warcrafts and whatnot, where you have all these hotkeys and you press them as they become available, etc. Do you guys feel like there's space for an MMO now in the community for a more slowed down version of combat like it used to be, where it's very important to have particular role types, the Holy Trinity as it was, and for those of you who are not really familiar with MMORPGs, Holy Trinity is considered to be you need your tank, You need your healer. You need your DPS. And in this case, you need usually, some form of utility or crowd control. You know, hypothetically, you pull 5... Handor pulls those 2 packs by accident. It's like, oh, shit! You know, you have someone in the background that's like, I'm going to root that one in place. Okay, cool. I'm going to mesmerize that one to where now we're fighting 4 instead of 6. Okay, maybe we have a chance now. So you have these kind of archetypes that are kind of required to be... Maybe not to be successful, but to be successful and efficient. You kind of want to cover those roles. How do you guys feel about that in the current landscape with all these action, high-speed kind of action?
Elder Scrolls does that pretty well. It's pretty. You literally cannot complete a same level dungeon or content for whatever you're doing without that trifecta. And it was it slowed down things a little bit when you had to find, like, when it was just if you're running with 2 people and you needed the 3rd or you needed the 4th, and you know you're not able to fulfill every one of those roles, because you did have to sit there and you know, like you said earlier, slash who area and then level range. But I mean, it made the success of doing that and meeting people, actually it forced interaction when we played. So I don't know, it filled 2 roles. So it made the content that much more important, and meeting people a necessity, honestly.
So I have 2 thoughts on basically that. The first of which is I love support classes. I think having them fills a very interesting role in a party, that you can have the person who doesn't want to do the big damage, doesn't want to be the stress of being a tank or healer, but bring something else. Maybe that's buffs, maybe that's debuffs, maybe that's making that white prevention where it's like, oh, you pulled 2 mobs and we only could face 1, so you're going to hold on to him for us. I love support classes. The only problem with a support class is that you either could balance around having them or not having. And so if you bounce around having them, they become required. And so it's very critical that you have a decent enough ratio that you can fit one in every group. If every group needs an enchanter, then there damn well better be 1/6 of the population better be enchanters.
Right.
Or else you literally run into the problem where it's like, oh, we can't find an enchanter because all the enchanters are in groups. Well, I guess we're not playing tonight.
What if, hypothetically, they weren't necessarily required, but you felt like your team was safer for having one? So you felt like it was less chance for you wiping and dying because you had it. And 2, you felt like you could pull faster and kill quickly and more efficiently with one. If you didn't have one, it'd be slower, more challenging, and riskier.
To a lot of people, that means we're not playing tonight.
So here's what I would put out there. Give more than one class the ability to do something that will solve that problem, but not in the same way. So, like, I have an enchanter, so I can, mesmer. I can stun this guy over here in some way and we can pull the rest of the pack, and the healer's over there, and he's not going to fuck our day all up. But the other guy is like, okay, well, I can't do that, 3-minute stun like the enchanter does, but I can do this other thing where maybe I can make it so the brute can't deal any damage, but he's still in our space, but like he's doing half damage now, right? So your playstyle has to change around the crowd control you bring, but at least more than one class can do that CC, right?
Sure.
So it's like, oh, okay, well, we get a monk today, so I better prep these abilities because we're going to have to deal with that type of CC.
It's like, what if I told you, like, the druid or the shaman could bring up grasping roots from the ground and grab one of the mobs and hold them in place, and you could pull the other mobs away from it?
Yeah, it's
and then they can root a second one,
caster
and they can pull them away again.
We only have the root, but we can CC the melee guy over there, and so now we're gonna have to everybody focus the healer because normally the healer's CC'd when we have a mesmer or whatever.
Yeah,
like that sounds great to me. You're gonna have to alter your strat based on who you bring, but you can achieve the goal.
There really needs to be at least a handful of other classes that can fulfill that role to 70%.
Maybe weak or so, but can in a pinch.
I don't even want it to be weaker. I want it to be different.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna inadvertently, anyways, you're gonna end up with we'll say a tier list of CCers, right, or a tier list of healers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's inevitable. But
but I want that tier list to change based on the mobs in the pack. So like halfway through the dungeon, like this pack a mesmer is great, but like the next pack we want a druid because they can root 2 people, right?
Right. Yeah. So
now your pack is all casters, so roots are useless.
So now you're talking about a dungeon diversity that allows so that a certain part of the dungeon is more weak to this trifecta, and then the early part of the dungeon is weaker to another trifecta. So you're creating a more diverse dungeon experience that's going to have its speed parts, and then it's going to have its little maybe a lull or a speed.
We have an enchanter. This pack is free, but the next pack is going to be a nightmare. Everybody pop your potions or whatever.
Well, as an example, let's say you're going into some dungeon where let's just say you're going fight some tower of knights or something like that, and you're like, man, there are just a ton of rogues in this dungeon, and they attack super duper fast and they do a ton of damage. How are we going to deal with that? Well, we can crowd control them. It's like, well, we need a healer. In this situation, maybe you don't want the cleric. Maybe you want the shaman, and the shaman can debuff them with a slow attack speed debuff that makes dealing with those rogues a little bit more manageable. So in this case, finding a shaman might be the better option if you're going to this specific place. Is that kind of like what you're talking about? Like having classes everyone can do a thing to some varying degree, but some work better in certain spaces than others.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, on this boss, the shaman is the best choice, but on the next boss, in the same dungeon, the mesmer is the best choice.
Paladins are better at interrupting casters because they get stuns. If there's a ton of casters in this dungeon, maybe a paladin tank is the better option today.
Right.
I was just gonna say a disarm is the first thing I thought of with the rogues, right? You have
maybe the warrior has somebody to disarm.
Yeah.
Sure.
But don't make it so that other classes can't do those dungeons.
Right.
No.
It's just more efficient and safer. It's easier if you have a particular composition.
Unfortunately, that balance is on a nice edge. You literally see if it's even a 5% disparity between effectiveness of a given tank, or like you saw it a lot in Burning Crusade, where paladins could do anything. They were fully capable tanks. For anything short of Illidan, they physically could not tank Illidan.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's slight 5% easier to do it with a warrior. So you're out.
Yeah, don't do that to me.
I think that's more of an issue with raiding.
So our strategy has to change. Make it so, we have a warrior today, so he can disarm the rogue, so we don't care. Like, we don't have to focus the rogue.
Deal with the pack in a different way,
deal with
not
this mob first.
Yeah.
Like, make my strategy change. Don't make it impossible. Or don't make it like, if we had a mesmer, this would be free, this whole dungeon. Like, make it so I have to adjust my play style to accommodate my group, not the group. This group physically can't do this dungeon.
And if you go look at the videos, if anyone's interested in Pantheon, go look at some of the Let's Plays that they've done of the alpha, and you can kind of see as the groups are like getting to this door where they're like, okay, there are 3 packs of mobs in here. I know that one on the right has like 3 casters and 2 of them are healers. So how are we dealing with that shit? Like, so what's the plan here? Because we have to deal with that. And so, with World of Warcraft, not to a complete... And again, we're harping on World of Warcraft just because it's probably the most predominant and easily accessible one. Only just recently have we kind of gotten to a place where crowd control is kind of a thing again. Sort of, right?
So there was a time back in I think it was Cataclysm, the one that's like deep underground, under the Maelstrom or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There was one dungeon where one mob was way overtuned or some shit, and it was just like it would wreck you. And so all of a sudden, crowd control became a thing again in that one dungeon. And like I was playing a class that could hex or I was like a mage, like a polymorph, and so I felt super useful. I was like, oh shit, I got this. Like, I'm over there doing my thing. And suddenly I felt like, oh, I'm not just sitting here mashing my rotation over and over again. Like, I had a use.
Honestly, this expansion, I totally feel super useful as a mage again because I can spell steal that stupid bone buff that those skeletons have in whatever dungeon that is.
Underrot.
Yeah, and so I feel like super useful because I'm like, oh shit, I can totally take these off of everybody. Look, now I've got Bone Storm of my own. But yeah.
How about that for every trash pack, though? Like,
well, sure.
what if I told you that every other trash pack was like, this could kill us if we don't play this right? And it become a constant fear of, if we fuck up this pull, if we don't crowd control that healer, if we accidentally let this mob run and pull another pack, and we don't snare it or root it or stop it from running away, like, if that constant threat is there, I mean, is that too much? Like,
that sounds exhausting.
It could be.
It is exhausting.
It sounds like that mythic we did where we kept pulling extra packs.
Yeah. And I think in a dungeon, like, obviously if you're pulling outside to that hill, like I said, it's not so much of a threat. But, like, if you're in a dungeon and you're constantly like, we have to make sure that, Druid, you have to snare every single one of these mobs before they get low life, so when they start running away, they don't rush into another pack, you know?
Give me something. Here's what I want. That sounds awesome. Sometimes.
Well,
like if I'm in the mood, if I'm like, oh, let's do this, we're gonna finally take on that dungeon. Everybody's got all their shit. We're on point. But then 3 days from now, I'm tired and I want to fish. Make sure there's something for me to do in the game that is useful. Maybe not like as useful as running that dungeon, but is still progression, or not like progression in the sense that most people talk about, like being on the forefront. But give me something to do that is useful to me as a character, that is not as stressful, so that I can have a down night and still play your game.
Well, I think what it'll change is, you know, like right now in WoW, we can run dungeon after dungeon after dungeon, and you just grind through dungeons as much as you want for whatever purpose you're trying to do that for. And that'll change that because every dungeon is kind of exhausting, right? Because you're constantly biting your nails going, oh my god, we have to do this perfect or we're going to die. You're not going to do dungeon after dungeon. You're going to do a dungeon and then go, okay guys, let's take a break and whatever. Like, it's going to slow down that feeling of we're grinding through a bunch of dungeons. It's going to be like, okay, we're only going to be able to do 2 before somebody goes, all right guys, I'm tired, I can't. You know what I mean?
And I don't think dungeons in this game will work like that. They're not like a point A, point B, we're done. It's a point A, and then there's 30 points in the dungeon. You're fighting to a camp, and you're pulling the mobs and hoping that this named thing spawns to get the loot.
Okay. So yeah, hang on one sec. Nice son. What that's also gonna do, Gidget, is it's gonna you're gonna be able to dungeon until you run out of materials, right? Because it sounds like crafting in this game is gonna be extremely important. So you could go until you know, everybody's out of the...
We're out of potions. We're out of...
Yeah. And then you call it, you know, and then that's... So, yeah, that's a good... Those are going to play well together, naturally.
I think it slows everything down in a good way. It slows...
Yeah, for sure.
You don't end up burning through the content nearly as fast because you have to be more methodical about the way you're doing things.
Absolutely.
One thing I would say, though, is I want to see varying levels of failure before death, because, you know, it might be, okay, we can fight one of these mobs at a time, and we can chain pull them until someone needs to go to bed. No downtime. We get 2. I don't want the response to be, oh, we got 2, well, we wipe. It should be, we got 2, oh, now we have to blow cooldowns or or punish in some way that we don't have, like, oh, now the healer's nearly out of mana, so the healer's got to, you know, now we got to take a 5-minute break while everyone gets back to peak condition.
Yeah.
The one mistake shouldn't be, now we're inconvenienced for 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't play Dark Souls. I'm not going to do that. If it's a 40-minute fight and on minute 39 I screw up a dodge and I die, I'm out. I'm done with your game.
Yeah.
Like one mistake in death is not okay.
I'm
like
the same
5
way.
mistakes in death, I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There are only like Rando. He's the type of person that he loves Dark Souls. He loves loading up Minecraft, or whenever we play Diablo, he's mad that we're not playing a hardcore character. You know, this is the type of person that's. There's only really very few of them that exist, and they're a minority.
I play that way 100%, but I want my mistakes to be my punishment. Mm-hmm. I don't want Handor pulled 6 mobs because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he was drinking a little too much tonight.
Now
you're a bad player and an alcoholic.
Yeah, I love how all this is just.
I would say choose who you party with better.
Well, then I'm not partying with my friends anymore, and then
because my friends are bad, and I'm bad, so I'm not going to.
Or maybe Handor needs a different role, and maybe Handor's not the one that should be pulling. Maybe Handor should be DPSing, and someone else should be pulling.
Well, I use pulling as an example, but
it's the easiest to gate because it's the one that's going to wipe you the easiest. Right?
Well, okay,
pulling 12 mobs versus pulling 4 is
okay. Or he was responsible for kicking some spell and he didn't, and so that's cause of us wiping.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I'm just a failure no matter where you put me. Whatever.
It is a team game, so at some point you're going to have to be able to trust the people around you. But I like the idea that if he screws up, now I have to blow cooldowns. And then now I'm on guard, right? Oh, I know he's gonna screw. I know I got to keep an eye on Handor, right? Because last pull he fucked up and I had to blow cooldown.
Bullshit.
If he pulls again, I need to know. I need to be watching that guy, right?
At that point, we're like, I'm sorry, Handor, you're not pulling on the Ranger anymore. I'm gonna need you to reroll a monk, and so you can feign death. So if you fuck up, and you're like, oh shit, guys, I got 2 packs. We're like, you're feigning, like you're dying or you're feigning, and we're gonna res you, or you're gonna feign and wipe them off.
That's another question too. Like, if I know that I have issues, like I'm gonna click that minecart, guys. It's gonna happen. What class can I play that gives me the most tools to save my friends from my mistake? Yeah. Right? Like, do I know that? Oh, well, I have to play a monk because I can feign death. Like, is that information
it's
available?
Why? Sure. I mean, it becomes every game develops a meta, right? We all know that. Like, in the case of a game like EverQuest, meta-wise, you always want the monk pulling. You always want the monk pulling because he can feign his death. So if he pulls those 3 packs, it's like, oh shit, guys, I'm just going to fall over. The mobs will be like, oh, well, guys, I guess he's dead. And they'll return back to their spawn points, and you can try again. If a ranger pulls and he's like, plunk arrow, and there happens to be another pack around the corner, and you get 6 of them, you're good luck. You got 6 mobs. Crowd control them, CC them, teleport out. Like, evacuate, run away, like, whatever you have to do.
Invisibility.
You're done. Well, no, not really, because generally speaking, in a game like this, when you become aggroed, they know you're there. Like, invisibility doesn't really wipe it. I mean, maybe I can be wrong.
You don't have an aggro dump unless you have feign. Like, feign death is the one aggro dump.
Possibly. I mean, again, I don't know.
Did the
or it could have been like the hunters when they very first got the feigned death, and all the time you'd see hunters pull, and then they would, and then the elite mob would just come over and stomp on them and kill them.
Yeah, there's sometimes a failure. There's a failure rate. So, like, I don't know what it is for monks in EverQuest 1, but there's like a small, like 5 or 6% chance you'll fail, and them all be like, I'm not falling for that shit, and they'll come just destroy you. Like, it's.
Now, I wonder. Because I only briefly looked at that Dreadlord preview. Yes. I wonder if they got Feign.
I have not seen it, but it's a... Who knows? That's what I'll say. I don't know.
Yeah, because they had it in EQ2. I think they had it in EQ1 as well.
They did. Yeah.
And in EQ2, it was a Feign target. So I'm like, okay, you're an idiot, Handor. You just get on the ground.
Yeah. Like, he could touch... point at someone and say, fall down. Yeah, in EverQuest 1, Necromancers, oddly enough, can feign death. Shadow Knights can feign death, and Monks can feign death. So they are the 3... Oops. Just gonna... Fall over. I think it's going to be very important for newer players to kind of be very researchy about what they want to do. What tools are at my disposal. I hate walking. I hate running. It bums me out. I'm going to play a class that can teleport. I hate moving slowly. That bums me out. I'm going to play a Bard or Druid or Shaman so I can buff my movement speed. Mm-hmm. I hate dying. I accidentally pull shit all the time and I overdo it. I'm going to play a Monk so I can feign death. I mean,
what if I hate all those things?
You play well.
On the topic of on the topic of Monk, are they doing encumbrance?
For armor class, I don't know.
Okay.
Has not been revealed.
Okay, that is a very funny part about EverQuest 1. Monks,
yeah,
their defensive abilities were based purely on how much stuff they were carrying.
Yeah.
So you would have, after a long dungeoning day, you might have to have someone, like if you want to keep dungeoning, you might have to have someone come and pick up your money for you.
Yeah. I actually used to there was a camp in North Coronas we called it KFC for Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was an aviac camp with a bunch of chickens. So the camp moniker was always KFC. And it's very, very far away from a city. So on my druid, I used to go to that thing and say, hey, any monks need a currency exchange. And so they would give me like 50 platinum worth of gold, and I would give them 30 platinum back. And I would get a 20 platinum cut, and I would then teleport back to the bank, swap out the currency, and then go back and do it all over again. So that they didn't have to just drop their money on the ground, because you'd start losing armor class the higher your encumbrance was over a certain cap. And so it'd become really detrimental to your group if you don't have your armor class or your ability to dodge. So
yeah, and money didn't just cash up automatically. You
had if it dropped silver, you got silver. Dropped gold, you got gold.
Yeah, so you might have 300 gold worth of copper, and you can't move.
Yeah. A trick you would do is you'd find a vendor and buy gems, because they'd be very low in weight, and so you'd give them the gold and you'd get the jewel, and it wouldn't always be a 1-to-1 ratio, but at least you could keep fighting and do the currency exchange that way. But there's a lot of interesting things like that.
Way off topic here. I actually just remembered this. I was going to mention this while in the line you were bringing up meeting people, and you always remember the person that did well at this or did well at this. And if at the slight chance that this person's watching, I think we would all agree. Shout out to probably one of the best healers we've ever met in our years of playing WoW.
Me? I'm here.
No, Annabelle the shaman.
Oh wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah. I will. There are just people that you meet, and especially it sounds like Pantheon's going to be another one of these games. When you meet someone great, you remember them forever. And definitely shout out to Annabelle, whatever she's doing.
If I meet anyone like that.
I am still friends to this day with all the EverQuest people that I've met throughout the days.
And if you were that warrior tank that we had in Ulduar all that time ago, that we're pretty sure you died because you disappeared, good luck.
Yeah.
That's not true, because the first guild that I ever joined in WoW, I started playing WoW. I didn't know anybody who played WoW. It was like right before Lich King came out, and I was like a level 5 gnome trying to get to Ironforge, and somebody stopped me on the road, and was like, "Hey, where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm lost." And so they told me how to get to Stormwind, so I could level in a better area.
Yeah.
And I ended up joining that guild, and I still remember people from that guild. So
yeah.
With
shout out to 3-footer for charging.
Oh my God.
For charging the slime.
Charging the slime.
Forever in infamy. It's so wrapping it up. I think the thing that has to be understood about a game like this, and the thing that I've kind of been telling people in hearsay and on the forums for Pantheon and stuff, I think a game like this has to, and it's an unfortunate reality, but I think you have to accept that this is the kind of game that is not meant for everyone. And it can't be the thing that everyone wants it to be. It's going to be a thing for kind of a niche community. Those people like me, right? And I think it has to be willing to walk away from some of the casual aspects and say, yeah, we know that this might make the game more quote-unquote accessible, but it changes the soul of what the intention is. And that is a very difficult tightrope to walk.
Yeah.
Well, because at the same time, you can't make concepts a holy grail that are just dumb, and were done because there wasn't anything better 20,
That's
30
true.
years ago.
That's
Things
true.
we have learned a lot in how to build, how to code, what things work and what things don't. Just because it was in the game in the 90s doesn't inherently mean it should still be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Even though it is a spiritual successor.
Quality of life things are probably the easiest things. So just because something was super duper tedious for the sake of being tedious, and that's just the best way to... There was no other creative alternative back then, doesn't necessarily mean that's how it should be now.
Yeah.
You gotta... But again, it's a balance.
Yep.
I don't envy the developing team that's trying to walk that, hey, let's try and be spiritual to this old ancient game with all of its intricacies and challenges, but also try and make that as accessible as possible without really like ruining that experience.
Well, there's a difference between accessibility and ease. There's also a difference between difficulty and tedium.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll bring up the most obvious thing, right? The thing that turned people off to games like EverQuest pretty much off the jump is a map. What if there was no map? What if the only way you knew where you were was by landmarks, a compass, and just having a general understanding of where a particular place is in a zone? And adventuring was discovery. It was like, I need to get to this dungeon. I know it's somewhere north of town, but I don't know where, and I don't know what's out there trying to murder me on the way. If I had a map, I could open up a map and say, I am going northwest. It is directly northwest of me. I will open my map and walk, blah, 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 and I'm fine. What if that did not exist for you in a game that was that dangerous and threatening?
And what if there was no lights without a torch, and you started playing, and you couldn't see anything, and you immediately stopped playing?
Let it go, Gordon!
No. So, I was going to say this. When I first started playing WoW forever ago, I did not know how to open the map or that there was one.
Sure.
And it was quite a while before, Kurt was like, oh, there's a map. So it was scary. It was really painful and hard to get around. And I was like, shit, where is everything? And people keep saying there's shit, and I don't know where it is. I mean, this is a long time ago, but I hadn't played any video games at all up to this point. And so it was scary, but also kind of interesting. And I mention this to Kurt every once in a while, where it's like, I miss the days where WoW was discovery.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know where everything was, and it was interesting. And even when a new expansion comes out, first thing you do is pop open the map and locate, okay, where am I in general to everything else around me? And if we didn't do that, I think it would be more interesting. It would be more that discovery part of playing a video game for the first time.
Well, here's how I would do the blend, right? Because I'm not going to be able to figure out a game with no map. I need a map, but give me a blank map and say, all right, well, you got to map this shit. So everywhere I go, every once in a while, I pull out my compass and I pull out my pen and I spend whatever cast bar getting my view distance on the map.
Oh, we're going SSI. I'm going to pull up my graph paper and a pen, and I'm going to start charting the dungeon.
Yeah. But
That's actually.
I don't want those days back. It was so miserable.
It would be interesting to do the discovery part. What's north? No one's been there. I don't know. All the NPCs are everyone dies. They'll go there. And then you go up there, and then now you start uncovering what's up there. And then when you're, when it's 2 months in and you want to go back to that place, you've got your map and you marked all your shit down because you found nodes or whatever.
It's going to be interesting to try to meet up with Kurt or whatever, and there's no map, and we're kind of
already struggle, and there's a map.
Okay, I'm by the really big rock that kind of looks like a moose.
Right. Yeah.
Tree right behind.
Oh, you're talking about Moose Rock.
Moose Rock, yeah. So we're gonna meet at Moose Rock,
Yeah.
That is exactly how it is, though. It's exactly that. Hey, follow. Okay, so keep the coast on your right, keep the water on your right, keep going until you see a bridge. Turn directly to the left and go straight away from the bridge. I am at the tower. I'm at the watchtower. That is how you explain someone to get to your party.
You get lost getting out of your house. How do you do that?
It's rough at first, but you always know where that tower is. Anytime someone says, "Hey, you want to go to the fight at the watchtower and blah blah blah," you're like, I know exactly where that is.
We're all meeting at Moose Rock, guys.
Moose Rock. It's a thing. We will find a rock in Pantheon, and we will dub it Moose Rock.
Moose Rock.
Pantheon, we want a rock shaped as a moose in the game. Please make it happen.
Yeah, and I want all of us to be standing in town, and then every time we like start a group, it's like, oh, we're gonna meet at Moose Rock. And people are like, where is that? You're like, oh, well, you go over the bridge, you turn left, and then it's up there. There's a rock. It's Moose Rock. Come meet us there. If you want to join our group, you got to go to Moose Rock. And then people are like, this rock doesn't look like a moose. You're like, no, but this is Moose Rock. And eventually, everyone in the server will just be like, oh, yeah, we're going to meet at Moose Rock.
Well, and they're going to be like, why didn't you just say meet at the tower? Why did you say meet at the rock? And it's like, no, this is Moose Rock.
Everybody meets at Moose Rock.
There's a perfectly round boulder right next to the tower. That is
my favorite part is going to be the guy who's like, oh, meet me at Moose Rock. And he has to explain to a new person what Moose Rock is, and he has no idea why it's called that.
Yeah.
Just like,
next thing you know, it spreads like wildfire and it becomes a community-known thing.
Yeah,
and no one really asks why because they don't want to seem ignorant. Like, I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, Moose Rock. Totally. Googling, like, Pantheon, Moose Rock, how to find... And there's like a forum post, like, some asshole told me to go to Moose Rock, and it took me 3 hours, and here's where it is on the map.
What I loved... I really wish there was like some way of going back in history to know how certain camps were named certain things in EverQuest. Mm-hmm. It's just like literally one group went into a place, found a thing, and said, "It's this. Like this is just what it is. It's the Scryer camp. Okay, it's called the Scryer camp because the named mob is called the Scryer. Okay, that one's easy. But like, why am I calling this the Blood Pits? Like." Blah blah blah. It's just like because there's no maps, there is no official naming. Communities just kind of dub things for what they think.
Yeah. Absolutely,
it's kind of interesting.
I just have to know in the very unlikely scenario that end of line we log into Pantheon for the first time and we find ourselves walking along a shoreline, coming across the bridge to a small path that jets left to a tower in the distance. I just want to know how much shit would you shit if that came
like
to
they're
be.
Listening, the devs are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be pretty exciting. I do want. I do want to see a Moose Rock.
Moose Rock, guys.
How hard would it be? Come on, man. It's just a rock.
Moose Rock and bury the barrel. That's all I'm looking for in life.
That's all I want is Moose Rock.
Moose Rock, guys. All right. Well, end of line. Is there any last minute topics that we want to cover, or are we ready to close this up for today?
I think that's it for me. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, there are a lot of resources. There's the /r/Pantheon MMO subreddit. They have official forums you can check out. They have been a lot more active in the last 6 months with having streamers. They're letting them into early alpha, and you can kind of get a scope of how the game is coming along. It was initially pretty rough, but they've done a ton of work. It's actually shaping up to be pretty nice.
I just have to say that you said streamers, but I heard screamers, which really changed the connotation of what you said.
That's that guy in the market who's like, Buckles! Yeah. I got fucking Buckles!
They patched the game, I can't move, come buy these fucking Buckles! I have 800 Buckles!
I have so many
Please,
backpacks.
I want to play the game, but I don't want to drop them.
And I actually got into a trade. I got into a huge argument in the trade chat. You know, because we were doing price matching and whatnot. You know, we were definitely doing some underhanded concepts. All the tailors and me. But I was like, I gotta sell them. I gotta drop the price. I gotta get rid of them, or else I physically can't pay the game.
You're taking the market on backpacks.
Yeah.
Don't buy his backpacks. Fuck that guy.
His backpacks have.
What I love is,
all
right, I want to buy 5 of those backpacks. Can you meet me at the bank? Well, no, I can't. You got to come down here to me, but I don't know where that is. Well,
I buy
Moose Rock. Yeah.
Come get my backpacks. I'm at Moose Rock. I'm stuck.
So if we ever develop our own game, there's got to be a guy that pops up twice a year in the middle of town, totally encumbered with screwing over.
Yeah,
Buckles.
Backpacks, Buckles, get them. And there's going to be
Moose Rock. Where is that? There's no map.
Yeah, there's going to be one super clumsy character named Hondor that can't do anything fucking right.
Moose Rock.
It's
and
an escort
Walrus
quest, and he keeps
Pulpus.
dying.
Yeah. He keeps pulling mobs from the entire zone.
Yeah, he's just pulling every mob.
And then feigns death.
Hard mode escort quest.
Yeah, dude.
Feigns death on you. Oh.
He's like, oh shit, I pulled 7 mobs. Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching today. I think this was a great. Obviously, this was a long cast. We had a lot to talk about today. This is our longest cast yet. But Kurt, why don't you tell people where they can find us and things?
All right. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. This has been Pixel Scandal, episode 18. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so, twitch.tv/Pixel Scandal. If you'd like to watch us on YouTube, go to YouTube, search Pixel Scandal, because we don't have a custom URL, because YouTube won't let us do that until we get a lot of subscribers. So go to YouTube and subscribe to Pixel Scandal. If you'd like to contact the show, you can do that by emailing us, pixelscandal@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @PixelScandal. We're even on Instagram @PixelScandal, if that's your sort of thing. And if you'd like to find some hastily slapped together information about the show, you can go to pixelscandal.com. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. I love you.
Someone say they love you. Okay.